Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Smorgasbord episode of Phil and the Mic. I, as always, am Darrin Michael, and with me, the man who actually just got back from Trevor Lawrence's wedding where he served as the best man, Mr. Phil Calise.
And I was the better man than Trevor Lawrence, by the way.
Well, I'll tell you one thing though, man. You know, he only picked you to be his best man because that just makes his really weird looking hair even look better.
You know what? It's a fair point. He had it looking extra specially glittery and shiny that day. And, it's good to be back on the podcast. It's good to be back with you and our audience. And
it feels good.
You went on a little hiatus last week. You called me randomly and were like, "Hey, I'm in Florida." And I was like, "You're in Florida? What are you doing?" "Oh, I took a little vacation." I said, "Nice, very nice. It's nice of you."
It happens. I mean, look at how tan I look,
not doing
man.
The podcast this
I look
week.
like a freaking ghost in this light.
I was hoping you'd look like The Rock, but you came back looking like.
Well,
like,
I mean, if I showed you my
like
whole body, then you would see
the shiny white pebble, not like The Rock. I don't know what happened.
You know, it is what it is. I'm okay. You know, I actually did get tan. I think it's the lighting. I have a bunch of. I know you can't really see my setup, but I have 3 other computer screens, and they're all white, so they're all shining right on my face. I think that's what the problem is. I really do because this face is dark. It's dark. Matter of fact, I'll show you. I'll prove it to you. I'm going to go turn off the lights, and then you'll see how dark my face looks.
I don't think
it's impressive. It's impressive. Listen, I'm telling you. But
listen.
So anyway,
you were cursed with the very white gene. There's nothing you can do about it.
Listen, I mean,
you know, I go out in the sun. I go cut my lawn for 2 hours. I come back. I look like I've been in Tahiti for 3 weeks. So it is what it is. What are you gonna do?
You got that Italian skin, man. I've got like that Irish skin. All right. I'm not gonna ever tan like you. You know, and you just gotta be careful, man. You don't want to burn the top of your head. That's where I have the advantage. See all this on my head? Like nothing gets through this huge patch.
You have a big advantage there because I have to tell you, many April or May 60-degree beautiful days that I think is nice, and just that day you want to be outside feels really nice, but the sun is beating on my bald head and I'm not hot at all, so I don't know until 5 hours I go into the house and I touch my head and it's on fire, and I'm about ready to cry. I'm burnt so bad. So
but why don't you wear a hat outside? You wear a hat all the time. I don't understand why you don't wear a hat outside.
Because didn't you ever hear if you wear a hat too much you lose your hair?
Well, now that explains it. That explains it. I thought that was a football helmet. Isn't that the football helmet? All the NFL players lose their hair. But you're the farthest thing from a football player, man. Come on.
I remember being told that by like my grandma when I was growing up, and I'm like, now I should have put it into practice. Turns out that was the problem.
Yeah.
Not the 1,000 years of Italian police jeans that screwed me up. It was the Mets cap I had on all this time.
That's what it was. Those damn Mets.
Exactly.
See, you can't win, man. They're crushing you all over the place, man.
Yeah.
At least my Orioles aren't taking my hair.
Well, listen, when we talked last podcast or the one before about baseball season, hope and optimism, the one thing we didn't talk about is your team missing every other game due to a rainout or COVID problem. So I haven't gotten to watch my team play too much yet. It's a little disappointing. It's been a wacky start for the Mets. They're in first place, but they played 7 games. Ridiculous.
How many cancellations have they had so far? Do you know?
They've had like 6. They already have 5 doubleheaders scheduled. And I gotta share something I saw on Twitter. I can't take credit for it, but somebody wrote on Twitter, the last day of the season, the Mets have to make up 47 games, so we're still in it. Like, it's just like the way things are going, it's crazy. It's who knows what's going to be, but
Well, you know what'll happen. Major League Baseball will change the rules again, and they'll only require each of those games to be 1 inning. first team to score, that's it. The game's over. So they'll just do that
Walk-off
and do that.
single
I mean,
in the
all
first.
these. That's right. Now that I want to hear. I don't want to.
Baseball's
I don't want to
getting
hear
so
this. Oh,
wacky.
it's. Oh, it's the whole starting at second base thing, man. I know we talked about that before, but we're going to talk about that again. But first, I gotta tell you a funny story. You're gonna love this one. This was the funniest thing I've ever seen. And everybody that I've talked to about this, nobody has ever seen this before. So I'm there's like my wife works at a doctor's office that's nearby, and there's a Starbucks that's like literally right next door. And so you see people like sitting outside at the tables and whatnot. So I'm walking towards the Starbucks from the parking lot, and I see there's this like playpen, and I'm like, all right, so somebody brought their baby, and they brought their playpen with them. That's odd, but okay, all right, no problem. So I get a little bit closer, and I see that there's a leash. So there was like a column in my way. That was the problem. So I see that there's a leash, and I'm like, okay, I wonder what the guy's dog looks like, right? So I'm walking closer and closer and closer, and it finally comes into sight. And the end of the leash was a white cat. And I'm like, what the hell is this? So the guy had a playpen for his cat because, cats can't jump. And he had his cat on a leash, which was the strangest thing I've ever seen. And even worse, there was like 3 or 4 kids around petting the cat. And I'm like, oh my God, don't you know this is the strangest thing ever? I mean,
Where do you
you
live?
can't tell me you've ever seen that. Obviously a strange area. I mean, I used to think that this was a nice area, but
wow,
strange, right? Really, really
and he was
strange.
by himself.
And then the other
this guy
day,
this guy was by himself, by the way.
he just sits there. But actually, what I heard was, and Trisha told me that the police came and made him leave, and I'm like, okay, the guy was just sitting at Starbucks eating or whatever he wanted to do outside, and they made him leave. And I'm like, what do you think it was? And she said she thinks that people were complaining about how weird that was, and they wanted this guy out of there because he had his cat on a leash. You can't tell me you've ever seen a cat on a leash before. That's the strangest thing, right?
A playpen for a cat on a leash. No, I can't say I've ever seen that. Even in New York City, where I think I've seen a lot of weird things, I've never seen that.
Like everybody that I've talked to, nobody has ever seen that, ever. No. I mean, nobody, and they're like, "What the hell is that? Doesn't make any sense." But anyway, so I thought that was funny. And then on Saturday was my birthday, as you know. I turned 21 finally, and so we went to a restaurant and we sat outside because my wife, even though she's gotten both of her shots, she's just afraid to be inside. Even though I think being inside at a table by yourself is really not a big deal. So I noticed that there's a guy out on the patio that's smoking. And I'm like, what the hell? I mean, the guy, so the patio, the table was there, and then right off of the edge of the patio was like shrubs and some I don't know, some other stuff, grass. And the guy's just standing on the grass, like literally a foot from his table. And I'm like, great, we're going to be sitting right next to this guy. So I said something to the hostess, and she's like, yeah, this guy was here the other day. We had to tell him the same thing. And I'm like, okay, well then why haven't you guys said anything to him? He's been sitting out there, since we pulled up. And so as we were going to our seat, because she had said, okay, well, I'll tell the manager. As we're going to our seat, for some reason, I was just angry. I guess that's what happens when you turn 48. You just get angry. And so I literally went up to the guy at his table, and I said something like, my man, put out the cigar. Nobody wants to smell it. You're not in the smoking section. Put it out right now. Something like that, like really, really argumentative, right? And the woman he was with was not real happy with me, and but he put it out. He sat back down, and everything was fine. And then we're sitting there eating, and then I guess when they finished, he decided he was going to light up again. Did the same thing, right? So I went inside and I told the manager, and I said to the manager, I said, listen, if you don't do something, then I'm going to do something. And that's not something that you want to see happen, because I'm just feeling really aggressive today. And so she went and she talked to him, and she's like, I mean, listen, you're talking about a guy that's never been in a fight in his life, but so she talks to him and she's like, on the other side of the building, there's a section for smoking. Why don't you go there? Right. So they start walking away, and whoever he was with, his girlfriend or whatever, she turns around and she starts like mouthing at me. I have no idea what she's saying. And the guy, as they're rounding the corner, the guy's like staring at me, giving me this evil look. Right. And I'm just sitting there staring. I'm just like looking back at him like this, just like that plain look on my face. And like my girls are like, Dad, don't look at him. He's going to come and try to kill us. And I'm like, okay, the guy's got to be like 60 years old. He's barely even walking. I mean, come on. I mean, it's
you got aggressive
like,
with like an elderly person.
It's not like this guy was a bodybuilder. Okay. I would have been like, sir, if you want to smoke, please go right ahead. Let me get an ashtray for you. No, it wasn't anything like that. I was just feeling aggressive for some odd reason, but I thought it was just really funny that like, and like when we left, Trisha actually had to pull the car to the other side of the restaurant to make sure that he didn't see what kind of car we were driving. I'm like, guys, you're really getting overboard about this whole thing, but it was funny and it's a good story, I guess.
That wasn't the cat guy, was
it? No, no. I'm sure there's nobody I don't think anybody wanted to be near the cat. I mean, listen, if you saw a guy sitting there with a cat on a leash, would you want to go up and talk to him? I mean, come on.
See, that would have been a way to get this old guy back. All of a sudden, you introduce him to the cat guy with the cat, the leash,
I love it,
and the playpen, and you tell the cat guy, you give the cat guy $50. You tell him, come sit by this guy smoking a cigar with your cat and your playpen. You could have outdone him.
Unfortunately, we were nowhere near that guy, but maybe next time if we go back to that restaurant, I'll have him come with me. I'll pay him. I'll say, hey, you and the cat, just hop in the car. I'm not worried about the cat getting anywhere because he's got a leash on. So we're in shape.
Anybody aggravates you for the rest of your life, you have that guy on speed dial, you one up anybody who aggravates you.
I know, right? And the sad thing is, I didn't take a picture of it. I'm gonna have to take a picture of it so I can show it to you. Yeah. I'm sure everybody would love to see it. But now that he got kicked out by the police, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Is that against the law? Is that like cruelty to cats? I don't know.
I just envisioning you going back to Starbucks with Trisha, and all of a sudden you see his picture on the wall at Starbucks with the cat in the place.
I know.
If you know any details about Catman, please call us.
He's wanted for animal cruelty, putting a leash on a cat. I mean, oh God,
that's hilarious.
It's hysterical. It's hysterical. So anyway, so that's my story, man. Nice. That's my story. Anything going on with you? I know your baseball schedule is like crazy. You're coaching like 12 teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I have a neat proud dad story because Luca just started playing t-ball, and so the way the schedule fell, I was able to come to like his first practice. So like, get the kids out there. Luca's one of the only kids who could like field a little, throw the ball decently, and like he looks like my son. Like because Dominic has played a long time. He's been out with there. When you have an older brother, it helps push the younger brother up a couple pegs, right?
Yeah.
So he so we have all the kids like hitting off a tee, and like we taught them like the bases and just walking through some real basic things. But Luca knows a lot more probably than even Dominic did at that same age, because he's absorbed a lot more, he's heard a lot more, and quite frankly, he's just done a lot with Dominic, especially. So he hits like a nice shot up the middle, and we're playing on a turf field, so it's right up the middle. It literally rolls all the way to the fence, right? I mean, it's gonna roll forever because it's like on concrete practically. So if you hit it decently, it's just gonna go. So he runs. All we taught them to do was run through first base, because most of these kids are hitting little dinky shots, and we're teaching them to run through the base, turn outside into the foul line, come back to the base. Just the very, very basic of running the first. Luca rounds first, just keeps going. Round second, just keeps going. Gets to third base and stops, right? So afterwards, I'm like, why did you stop at third? You ran all the way to third. That was more like a triple. That's what he said. He was like, that was more like a triple. Like the kid should have fielded it. I really shouldn't get a home run for that. That was more like a triple, Dad. All right, bud.
That's
I'm like, all right,
hysterical.
you self-policed your hit. Okay. It's like when you play pickup with your friends and nobody plays outfield. So you're like, anything that doesn't go like real far is an automatic double. You can't get more than that. He kind of policed his triple.
Oh my
Hilarious.
God, that is hysterical. That's
Yeah.
hysterical.
So,
Hey
but
man,
yeah,
I appreciate
it's
that.
baseball. It's baseball in my house. I thought I'd be watching a little more on TV, but as I said, the Mets have been rained out every other day. So
Works out perfectly for you.
Works out. Your Orioles are, they're doing what they do. They started off strong. They're starting to peter out a little bit, and away we go.
Yeah, they're not really good.
Good.
It's funny. There's a couple things that have surprised me so far. I mean, listen, granted, we're only 10, 12 games into the season, so we're 1/16 of the way through the season. But I thought it was very interesting that Boston goes and they get swept by the Orioles to start off the season. And since then they've gone 9-1. So, and this is a Boston team that's not supposed to be very good, and so it's early, and we know it's early. I mean, they could go and they could lose their next 20 games, and the Orioles could go and lose, they could win actually 2 or 3 of their next 20 games, which would be a big improvement. So you don't know what's going to happen, but the thing that was crazy about this was what JD Martinez did. And I know that people were really down on him because in the 60 game season last year, he was just atrocious. But this is a guy that's, the last few years he's been automatic 3,500 every year and he hits 300. I mean, this is a great player. But he actually tied the record for most extra base hits in the first 8 games of the season with 12. 7 doubles, 5 home runs, 16 RBIs, and he was batting .472. After 8 games, tied with the great Dante Bichette, who many people might not know, but they would know his son, who is an up-and-coming star with the Toronto Blue Jays. So I thought that was a huge surprise. That's probably the biggest surprise. I think another surprise is that the Giants are 8-2. I don't know where that came from. I mean,
8-4. 8-4.
8-4. Right.
Yeah.
8-4.
Well, what's interesting with the Reds?
From.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting with the Red Sox, and I think they're probably not a good team. I think the read on them is they don't have any pitching, and I think over 162 it's going to be an issue, and they're not a playoff team or anything. But it's interesting when a franchise like them that has been mostly really good for like going on a couple decades.
Definitely.
I mean, since they broke the curse and they won 3 or 4 rings, and they've been a really good team for, almost 20 years at this point.
Yep.
It's interesting. They've had a few bad years now, and they probably entered this season with the lowest expectations they've had in a long time.
No doubt.
And so it's interesting when like a good franchise has no expectations. Sometimes they surprise you because while the expectations are rock bottom, they still have a really high payroll.
Yeah.
And which means they do have some overpaid players and underperforming players, but they have some talent still. I mean, they can put a really competent offensive lineup out there between, Bogarts and Martinez. And, they do have some talent there. They're not Verdugo, who they got in the big trade. I mean, I'm not Verdugo. Who else is on the Red Sox?
Bogarts is still there, isn't he?
Devers
is playing well so far.
They still have some talent there. The pitching is a little erratic. I mean, they don't have the pitching because they're paying Chris Sale and they got issues there. But I do think they're a surprise and a nice little story at the beginning. I think it is a surprise. Let's face it. The Yankees are 5-7, I think I've gotten a chance, honestly, to watch some of their games because the Mets have been rained out every other day. And what's interesting about the Yankees is you almost take a step back and say, they don't do anything so good anymore. Now, I do think they're going to win the division. I think the division is not that good. But when Garrett Cole doesn't start, they're not particularly really good at anything. They have a lot of boppers in the lineup that strike out a lot. So if they don't hit home runs, they don't score any runs. I don't love their bullpen like it used to be. They don't have the arms they did have in the bullpen. Even Chapman's not nearly as dominant as he once was. And so every 4 out of every 5 days when Garrett Cole doesn't come to the mound, they're really kind of beatable. They're not scary. So it'll be interesting to watch because I think they went 32-28 or 33-27 last year, which is okay. But that means that over the last 75 games, they've been about a 500 team, this year and last year. Maybe they're starting to get to a point where they're just not that great of a team. They're more like hype than substance at this point. So I'm going to keep an eye on it.
It's great. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see.
It's a great thought. And you know what? And it's interesting. It's interesting because in fantasy, I was actually offered a trade today. And it was the guy wanted Blake Snell from me, and he offered me Corey Kluber and Juan Carlos Stanton. And the first thing that popped into my head was, wow, if this was 5 years ago, I would jump on this trade. Right?
This was a trade in 2017, I tell you.
Oh man, I would have loved that trade. But
by the way, I love fantasy baseball trades because I love the thought process behind the initiator of all trades. They're like, okay, this garbage hitter who hasn't done anything and is aggravating me, and this garbage injured pitcher who hasn't been healthy in 2 years for a really good pitcher. Yeah, that feels fair. Let me hit the submit button.
Well, no, you got to remember his last start, he didn't get out of the first inning, which happens. So he's thinking, I can buy low. Yeah, he only got 2 outs. I mean, 3 runs and 2 outs, and they just were like, "Hey, you don't have it." But
that's funny.
But I'll tell you what. I mean, yeah, those are some surprise
teams. So wait, are you formally rejecting the trade on air?
I said no unless we could turn back the clock. So since we can't go back in time, I'm going to have to say the answer is no on that one. But the biggest no surprise to me is who would have thought the Dodgers would be like 10-2. I did not see that coming.
They're potent.
I mean, they're just running away. I mean, they're
Listen,
hitting, they're pitching. My God.
Their over-under is 102. We all know this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they actually have to do a bunch of 10-2s to hit the 103 number.
I know, right? I mean, you got to win 80% of your games, but they will. They're looking as strong as they should. I mean, their pitching is great. Their hitting is great. I mean, what can you say? I mean, there's no weakness on that team except the fact that
they have a great combination of all things you want. The only slight weakness, if you're really nitpicking, might be the bullpen, but they're loaded. They're absolutely loaded.
Yeah. They just got so much, and it's always fun seeing the beginning of the season because I feel like the dominant pitchers. The one thing that I've seen this year, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree. It seems like there's a lot of strikeouts. Like hitters are striking out at such a rapid pace. It's unbelievable. Like one of the things that I look at when I draft pitchers is I look for guys that can throw innings because you get points for that, and guys that can rack up strikeouts. And there are so many guys out there that are averaging more than 1 strikeout an inning. I mean, it's unbelievable. And to see some of the strength of pitching, and I can't even remember the last time we're in the first 2 weeks of the season, we've already had 2 no-hitters.
Two no-hitters and an absurd amount of strikeouts. But
yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a testament to cold weather in the Northeast, cold weather around the country. Pitchers are ahead of hitters early. That's like a kind of a well-known moniker, but a lot of it is the last decade of the analytic geeks accepting this and the organizations accepting even my leadoff hitter strikes out 100 times a year.
Yeah.
And my power hitters strike out 200 times a year.
Yeah.
And there's no emphasis on making contact anymore. There's no emphasis on moving runners over. Nobody bunts. And when they lay a bunt down, it looks like I'm teaching my 7-year-olds how to bunt. They don't even know how to bunt.
I know.
I mean, I could go into a 20-minute rant even on the shifting. It's just baseball's not played how we grew up. But it's
different.
It's a really bad product in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because if you're at a game or you're somebody who cares and likes baseball and you get the graphic, and I see it with the Met games all the time, Conforto's up, or whoever, and 4 infielders on the right side, and there's no place to hit the ball on the right side, and Conforto's still looking to take an outside pitch and roll it over to second base, and he hits a good, even if he hits the ball hard, there's 4 defenders on that side of the field. Instead of just being able to go with a pitch the other way, and you have a whole half of a field, or God forbid, drop a bunt down and get a hit, these guys don't do it. They just don't do it. It's crazy.
I mean, listen, you're a major league hitter. You're the best of the best in the world when it comes to playing a game that we all love and all of us play when we were young. You know, everybody dreams about being a major league player. So these guys, you're telling me that these guys can't. I mean, this guy Conforto, just like Chris Davis, they physically cannot hit the ball to the opposite way. You can't sit there and teach these guys to hit the ball the other way. You know, a split second late in your hit. I mean, what? No, I can't. I have to hit the ball early. Really?
I'll never understand that. It's a lost art. I don't think they're practicing it. But I'll tell you even another thing. Like if you're a guy that has real speed, right? Like you're a true base stealer, you have wheels, you can run, right? You're the guy who's going to get some triples, what have you. There's such a lack of emphasis on stealing a base that if you got real wheels in the majors now, you're still not stealing that many bases. When I grew up, like Vince Coleman stole 100 bases a year. Yeah. Are you trying to tell me that the pressure somebody like that would put on the pitcher and change the whole inning? When he used to get on base as a Met fan, you'd cringe because you're like, if he walks, it's a double. He's already on second base. And now they don't do that. And I'm like, why do the analytic guys not realize the pressure you're putting on a pitcher and the fact that you just you took a walk and moved into scoring position? I don't know why there's not an emphasis on that. And if you are fast, why don't you drop 20 or 30 bunts down a year? Like, it doesn't make sense to me, but they don't do it. They don't do it anymore.
No, it's a great question. Like you said, when we were growing up, I mean, you know, I remember when Ricky Henderson stole 130 bases in a season, you know, and these guys, you would never see a guy back in the 80s. The league leader didn't steal 45 bases. You know, it was, if you were going to lead the league, you had to steal 80, 90, 100 bases 100. Every year, you know? And so I don't understand. I think that's part of the problem with, you and I were talking about this, you know, I was reading this article. It was the strangest thing I've ever read because, you know, I don't consider myself a baseball purist per se, but as far as, you know, all the analytics and doing this and turning it into, you know, I like it better when it's a game. And to me, when you introduce every single analytic that you can find, it's not as much of it's not a game anymore. This is something completely different. You know, now they're saying, oh, well, this pitcher, his sinker now sinks on average 20 inches, whereas last year it only sunk 17 inches, or the ball has 2,500 revolutions per minute, whereas last year he was only at 2,200. And I'm like, first off, why are you coming up with this crap? I mean, we're that bored. I mean, they literally are just making up new stats all the time. I'm still trying to figure out what the hell whip is. I'm still trying to figure out that. And what's the other one that Mike Trout always leads? War. What the hell? What is WAR? I mean, I know what WAR is, but what is WAR when it comes to baseball? I mean, isn't that when two teams hate each other and they go into battle and they fight it out? I don't know what that means.
What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
It's
not that one.
No, I know it's wins above replacement, but do you even know what that means? Because that's like a huge. They talk about that with the Hall of Fame all the time.
I'm very similar to you. I think I am more of a baseball purist than not. But as I've seen the devaluing of certain things, like for instance, pitchers can't bunt anymore. They physically can't even do it. So I don't really like the National League product of pitchers hitting this year because it's ridiculous. And so I almost am ready to concede to it. And I think I talked about it last year. Just go with the DH at this point, especially off of last year where the pitchers didn't hit. And now we went back to pitchers hitting. It's just an ugly product and unnecessary. But to your point, whip I actually like. I think that's a real useful stat because I actually think whip is one of the few newer fangled emphasis on numbers that makes more sense than ERA even, because WHIP is walks plus innings, walks plus hits over your innings. You know, and I like that because it says what kind of stress level or lack of stress level a pitcher's under. Is he a guy that's always in jams, or is he a guy who's smooth and easy and getting through innings and he's dominating because nobody's getting on base? I kind of like that. WAR,
WHIP I'm okay with. Yes.
Yeah, WAR. I mean, WAR is basically they're taking like I think the average statistical person at that position and judging you against them. And so the higher your WAR is how much better you are than the league average at its position.
How the hell do they determine that, though? I mean,
God only knows what gets thrown into that sauce pot and stirred around, but that's what it is. It's like Mike Trout is, Mike Trout is whatever. He's a 9 WAR guy. I mean, he's like an 8 or 9 WAR guy on his best years, which is significant. I mean, they're saying he's worth 9 wins above the average guy who does what he does.
But that's just him alone is worth 9 wins. His performance alone is worth 9 wins to that team.
Over the course of a season, he's worth 9 extra wins or something.
I don't know how you come up with that. WHIP, I want to get back to WHIP because I'm okay with that, because if you look at the guys that have the best WHIP, those are the guys that are the most dominant, the guys that are unhittable. Your guys like DeGrom and Cole and Bieber's got a microscopic WHIP. Like, to me, that stat I agree with that one. That stat shows how dominant a pitcher is. But the other ones, I'm just, and there's, I don't want to.
No, there's a lot of silly ones. And I think the biggest thing that, and what is in goes out of vogue and vice versa, right? There's going to be an emphasis. Some team is going to come along playing small ball, right? Because they're forced into it, not because it's being really focused on, but there's going to be a team of contact hitters with some speed that put a lot of pressure on a team, and they see the old fangled 80s and 90s teams, and even, go back obviously years before that, and they're going to put additional stress on some power arms or some team that looks to be better on paper. And you're going to see probably an evolution to get a little back to it, a team that can beat the shift, or a team that sneaks into the playoffs and actually drives a Dodger team nuts, or does something to someone better where people say, oh my goodness, maybe there is more on this. The one thing I think has to come around, even to these analytic guys, is there's got to be an understanding of how detrimental strikeouts are, because it's the most useless out. You've accomplished nothing. You didn't hit the ball and put pressure on a defense to make a play. Right. You didn't advance a runner. You didn't hit a sacrifice fly. You just struck out. It's the most dead thing you could do as a hitter.
That's right.
And I know as a Met fan, you listen to a lot of games. Keith Hernandez is the guy who does the games. Keith Hernandez, Ron Darling. And Keith Hernandez always says that he goes, when it will stop is when the embarrassment my generation felt for striking out becomes normal again. He goes, we used to be embarrassed to strike out. If you were 100 strikeout guy a year, you were known to be like a bad hitter. Or you better hit 40 home runs and be a power hitter.
That's right.
Now your leadoff hitters strike out 100, and Aaron Judge, who is a great power hitter, strikes out 200 times. Yeah. And guys strike out 175 times. And if it doesn't become embarrassing again amongst your peers, then it's never going to matter. And right now it's totally accepted. So you can go 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts, and that's like completely acceptable now. Or 1 for 5 with 4 strikeouts. It's like, oh, that's okay.
You know what? And you bring up a really interesting fact, and that's something I hadn't really thought about. But back in the day, it was only the power hitters struck out 100 times. Only the power hitters. Now, if you're an everyday player, you're going to strike out 100 times. I mean, that is like nothing. I mean, if you strike out 100 times, you're actually one of the better players. I mean, there were guys way back when, I mean, long time ago, that used to have more walks than strikeouts. Remember those days? Not even that long ago. Not even that long ago.
Do you remember? Well, and if you go back a really long time ago, the hilarious statistics, the jaw-dropping statistics, I should say, of guys striking out 20 to 40 times a year. But think about it. What's one thing, and I teach my kids this at 7 and 8 years old. When you get 2 strikes on you, you choke up, you put the ball in play. You figure out a way to get the ball in play. You foul off a bunch of pitches, what have you. If you watch today's game, and at least over the last decade, a hitter on an 0-2 count or a 3-2 count takes the exact same swing and does the exact same thing they would do on a 3-0 count. They don't change anything. They don't do anything to adjust. That's why they can't hit the ball the other way. That's why they don't bunt, but they don't do anything.
It's crazy.
And so if you take the same swing regardless of circumstance, you're going to strike out more. And they also, by the way, take more strike 3 pitches than I ever recall in my life. I've seen so many guys up at the plate guessing what's coming and freezing at a pitch right down the middle because they were just guessing something else was coming and they didn't get it. And so they just take it, walk back because it's not embarrassing anymore. It's just okay. It's like, I tell my hitting coach, I was looking at curveball. He threw me a 92-mile-an-hour fastball down the middle, and I just took it because I was guessing curveball.
He got me. He got me. Oh.
You told me 2 minutes ago, 39% of the times he's ahead 1-2 in the count. He throws a curveball. I looked for a curveball. He threw me a fastball. I took it, and it's like no big deal. Go sit down. Okay, it's just a different world, but hopefully it changes because I do think the product day to day is crappy compared to when it used to be. And I don't want to sound like the old guy who's like back in my day, but because I kind of have been through both. I've seen, I can go back all the way to the late 80s, 90s, but I also now have been watching baseball in this new era for a decade. So I'm kind of comfortable looking at baseball through both lenses, and I just don't like this product as much. I just don't.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I can, my earliest baseball memory is watching the 1980 World Series when the Phillies won. And, and it was just, I like when there's not instant replay. I like when the umpires make a mistake and they get booed and the crowd is going crazy. And there's so much stuff going on now. And I realize technology has changed and you can do this and you can do that, but it's just different. It's just different. Now, I want to talk about 2 more things with baseball before we move on. And one is I want to talk about Jacob deGrom. All right. So he's had only 2 starts so far, because of the 30 rainouts. He's pitched 14 innings. He's allowed 1 run, 21 strikeouts. His ERA is 0.64 and his WHIP is 0.71. Okay. So they are what you refer to as ridiculous numbers, which we expect out of arguably the best pitcher in baseball and probably the best pitcher to come along in a while. His first game lost 5-3. Second game lost 3-0. We thought that this guy was going to, potentially win 20 games this year. But from the first 2 starts, it looks like it's the exact same thing going on. His team's not scoring runs for him, and his bullpen is terrible. Is this going to change, or is this just the way that it is with Jacob deGrom?
So, you're hitting on a soft subject to Met fans, so I can. I know that's the masses.
That's why I'm asking, because it's concerning.
It's went on for 3 years now. If you go back, you could easily add 30 to 35 wins to whatever his career total is. And
absolutely.
He obviously became a pitcher. For people that don't know, Jacob deGrom was a shortstop in college. Jacob deGrom got a very live arm at 32 years old or whatever he is, throws 100 miles an hour, and he's actually been throwing harder the last 3 years. And a lot of that is a testament to the lack of wear and tear on his arm.
That's right.
He's got a very young pitching arm, which is odd when you see his age, but that's why he's throwing harder now. That's what they're saying. Makes sense. He does not have 20 years wear and tear on his arm, pitching since he's a teenager. He literally started pitching at 22 years old. So he's got a really young arm. I think the Mets go to the field instead of when your ace gets on the mound, you just know you're going to win because he's so dominant. They get on the field worried about now 3 years of not hitting for him, and they play really tight for him. So I really think at this point now some of the players have changed, but some are still there. And I think as it just has snowballed, they play tight for him. They don't score with men on base. Like, I've literally watched this scenario. This movie has ended the same way for 3 years. He either leaves with like 1-0 leads in the 8th, or 2-1 leads in the 7th and they blow the game, or they just don't score at all. Because, I mean, he's pitching to like a ridiculously low ERA. He's not giving up many runs. They never score for him. So another thing that kind of goes unsaid is he always pitches in like pressurized situations because they never have a lead for him ever. They're never up like 6-1 in the 7th. It's always like 1-0, 0-0. It's crazy. So I don't know if it's going to change. I was optimistic this year with Lindor and just with like, you know, some new faces and a team that should be good. And by the way, they're 0-1 in his 2 starts and they're 5-3 as a team. So just to show you, you know, it's like one of those heads.
No, they're 0-2. Didn't they lose his first start too?
Yeah, I'm sorry. He's 0-1, but yes, the team is 0-2. In their 8 games, he's 0-2, and the team's 5-3. So
I mean, they've in 2 games they've scored 3 runs for him. I mean,
yeah. And by the way, they're not scoring a lot as is. Yeah, but I mean, they don't win. They don't win for him. They don't win for him specifically. Nope.
It's really odd because, you know, I don't remember who the last pitcher was that was this dominant. I mean, maybe Pedro Martinez. I don't know why I kind of compare him to that. I don't really compare him to. I mean, he is a power pitcher, but I don't really compare him to a Clemens or a Randy Johnson.
He's got a very different bot, like he's long, he's skinny, crazy easy motion. I don't really know who, you know, he's like, I don't want to say this like he doesn't really remind me of anyone. Like there's not a guy I'm talking about
him. I'm just talking about him being dominant because I remember some of Pedro's years, like his ERA was like 4 runs below what the major league average was, like something absurd, you know, like, and I see that in DeGrom, like he's that dominating, you know, versus the rest of the league. So, yeah, I mean, listen, you can't not be a fan of the guy. I mean, he seems like a good guy. He goes out there, he plays hard all the time. He crushes it every single game. And, you know, I feel bad for him, but, you know, he was the first guy picked in our league. And the second guy picked is the guy that I want to talk about next. And that is Acuna. So here's this guy's stats so far into the season, right? He's batting .442. He leads the majors with 7 home runs. He's second with 14 RBIs. He's first with 23 hits. He scored 17 runs already, and he's 3 for 3 in stolen bases. Okay, granted, it's a dozen games. That's it. But honestly, are we seeing just something? Are we seeing this guy completely just? I mean, is this his year where this is like his coming out party? I mean, I know he's one of the best players, but is this where he truly separates himself this year? I mean, obviously he's not going to keep up that torrid pace, but I mean, is this guy putting together potentially a historically great season?
I mean, you know, I think he's clearly going to be, or he's going to have a very, very good chance to be a 40-40 guy, which is a rare thing nowadays because let's face it, we just talked about it. Stolen bases are at a premium. They don't steal bases.
Yep.
So he'll actually, as a leadoff hitter, by the way, because he is a leadoff hitter for Atlanta, he's got a better shot to get the 40 home runs than the 40 stolen bases just because they don't run a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a phenomenal talent. He when we talked about the absurd National League All-Star outfield, it was like him, Betts, and Soto. They're all incredible.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
Acuna, I mean, you can fight over which one's the best, but they're all right there. And I think Acuna easily could have the best year of the 3. They're all great. So.
Yeah, they are. They're great. It's fun to watch, and you know, and it keeps me interested in the Braves. You know, I'm trying to convert myself to follow the Braves a little more. I'd like to get out to a couple games this year, but it's tough when you know the Braves are a good team usually, and the Orioles are bad. I mean, I'm not used to cheering for good teams, so I'm kind of stuck. But we'll see. I wanted to move into a little NFL, and I think we're going to be on the same page with this, but. Julian Edelman, I want to talk about him a little bit because I know he just retired and talking about a guy that's done a lot with, I don't want to say nothing because obviously he's an NFL player, but you know, this is a guy that was a 7th round draft pick. All right. They only have 7 rounds in the draft. And what did he do? He played 12 years. He had 620 receptions for 6,822 yards, which is fine, right? He won 3 Super Bowl rings. He was a Super Bowl MVP of Super Bowl 53. And even the most impressive is he's second all time in postseason receptions at 118, behind, I think, Jerry Rice.
How many career touchdowns is it?
I don't know. I think it's like 70. I want to say 70, something like that, 60 to 70. He was a very, very good player. I mean, a little guy that made the most of his career. And I think he was a college quarterback too, I want to say, out of some really small school. So yep. he made the most of his career. The question is, is that enough to be in the Hall of Fame? And my answer is no.
Me. Yeah, you know me. I have a very high bar for the Hall of Fame.
That's a hell of a career, though. I know that really is a heck of a career when you look at the whole thing.
Yeah, I think in this age we're in, really, really good. We always have to. Everybody's either great or horrible, right? Like we're in like a culture of like it's either you're great or you suck. No, he's like really good. But you just have to like stop there. Don't say more than that.
Yeah.
He's just a really good receiver. He maximized to the nth degree his talent. He lived in the playoffs, so he obviously has some really inflated playoff numbers. He was a clutch player. Like I'm good at assigning a lot of things to Julian Edelman. Hall of Famer is not one of them, but clutch player.
Yeah.
Brady safety net. A guy who lived and took big hits over the middle, tough. Courageous, played hurt, whatever. You could give him like 20 things. Just don't call him a Hall of Famer. He's not a Hall of Famer. That's all.
It's impressive because I thought when Wes Welker kind of ended his career and Julian Edelman took over that role, that he wasn't nearly going to be Wes Welker, because I thought Wes Welker was unbelievable. I mean, he got traded from or he left the Dolphins and went to the Patriots, and then his career just blew up. I mean, he was so good, but I didn't see that happening with Edelman, and he proved me wrong. I mean, he really had a great season. I think no matter what, he's going to go down as just a hell of a football player, plain and simple. I mean, no matter what the future holds for him, his legacy.
When I think of Julian Edelman, the one moment that'll stand out in my mind, and it's a sore subject in your state, is the catch he made in the Super Bowl comeback against the Falcons. I don't know if you remember, but it was like a ball that after like they had to do like 50 replays for an hour, because you would have swore it hit the ground, but somehow it was like
I remember that one
tipped like 50,000 times, and he got his hand under it.
Yeah.
That's when I think of Julian Edelman. I think of never giving up. Yeah. I think of like fighting until the last second. And and I also think, and maybe the best case for him, and I'm not making this, he's not a Hall of Famer, but the best case for him probably being a Hall of Famer is he was clearly their best and in some cases only real weapon for a while. And people still couldn't take him away. Like, so, I mean, that's probably the best case, because he wasn't exactly like sitting in the slot with like really talented receivers around him. He was Brady's go-to guy outside of Gronkowski and him.
Of course.
But he was able to put up 10, 12 catches in every big game. And he had loads of big touchdowns. So he definitely performed at a high level when it mattered most, for sure. So,
I mean, arguably one of the best 7th round draft picks. I think Brady Brady was what, a 6th? I think Brady was a 6th round. Yeah. So you don't see a whole lot of 7th round guys. Now you see a lot of 7th round guys making teams now, but to become stars, not so much. I was talking about Trevor Lawrence's wedding, and I know you had a really nice time. I saw some of the pictures of you and Trevor. I love the one when you guys had your heads together and he was like putting his hair on top of your head, so it looked like you had the Trevor.
That was really cute. That was a classic.
Yeah, that was really cute. But here's my question for you. We all, except for me, I haven't, but everybody else has really anointed him as the next great one. Okay. And I understand he's got great tools and he's had a very successful college career. Okay. I understand that. But here's my question for you. All right. What happens if this guy ends up being the next Jamarcus Russell? I mean, everybody is so sure. What does that say? What does that say about everybody's scouting? Because he is the hands down clear-cut number one, and it doesn't always happen. There's not always a clear-cut number one. Hands down, there's not even a thought. If you look at any mock draft, 100% of them have him going number one. So what happens if he bombs? What does that say about the entire scouting situation that's out there? If everybody gets it wrong.
Well, not only it's even more pronounced that he's the obvious number one pick. A coach came out of retirement who coached his whole career in college to be the head coach of the team to draft him. So Urban Meyer only took the Jacksonville job because he was drafting Trevor Lawrence.
Right.
I think the term that you often hear is generational talent, and they talk about the Peyton Mannings and the Andrew Lucks as like once in a generation or once in a decade type of draft pick.
Yeah.
He has at times been lumped into that category. What I have noticed is while it's a foregone conclusion, he's the number one pick, I don't hear the same overwhelming confidence that he's Peyton Manning or Andrew Luck. And I personally think the jury is out on him much more than others do. And I don't mean like he's not a really good athlete and he does some things that clearly will translate in the NFL and he'll have some success. But I'm not sure he's the thrower and quarterback you need to throw the ball into tight windows and make all the types of throws you have to make in the NFL. I'm not sure he's that. Either way, though, I'm not sold on Zach Wilson being that. I'm not sold on Justin Fields being that. I can't say I ever saw Trey Lance play, the North Dakota State kid. I've seen Mac Jones play a lot, and I'm not sold on his athletic ability or his skill set overall being worth, being a top quarterback. This could be a year where we look back and the class just wasn't very good, or like anything else, maybe it is. But what does it say if the scouts are all wrong? It says what it says every year. Have you heard the stat over the last 30 years? Something like 50-50 of the quarterbacks taken in the first round even become NFL quarterbacks after 5 years. It's a crapshoot.
That's right.
It's a complete crapshoot. They study it for 2 years. They watch every throw a kid makes for 3 years of college. They put him through a combine. Yep. They put him through 10,000 questions, and they get it wrong a lot. It's a crapshoot.
Yeah, it's something that's interesting to think about. And when you mentioned Peyton Manning and you mentioned Andrew Luck, and a lot of times quarterbacks get taken with the number one pick or just even early, top 3 or 4 picks. And when you look at the great quarterbacks that are out there now, they're really not early draft picks. Like the best guys like Mahomes, was he a top 3, top 5 pick? No. Aaron Rodgers, was he? No. Russell Wilson, wasn't he a second round pick?
Aaron Rodgers fell to the end of the first.
Yeah. Tom Brady. I mean, you've got all these guys and, so it's very rare. I mean, I would group Eli Manning in there too, because I know he was number one pick too. He was number one. So there's not a whole lot that do well. I mean, for all those guys, there's how many more Mitch Trubisky's that are taken number one that just don't amount to anything, or Achilles Smith, or even
the
Darnold.
List goes on and on. The list goes on and on. But the thing is, when you're a bad franchise, which is how you're picking in the top 5, it means you don't have a quarterback, or it means you have a failed quarterback. And so the old adage is, until you have one, you got to keep drafting, right? So, I mean, all it takes, it's like when somebody says, how did that organization give that player, $200 million? And why does the agent have the guts to take them to free agency and reject deals and take a deal? Because it just takes one guy, one organization to believe in you. And the same thing in the NFL with the quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback and you're the Lions, you're the whatever team, name your bad team that never wins, you're gonna fall in love with a quarterback and take them high, because it's like a lotto ticket. If you finally hit, you can actually change the franchise. And unless you hit on your
Yeah, that's true.
quarterback, you're done. You're not going to ever win at any high level. So they all fall in love with someone. They convince themselves someone's the next great quarterback, and they often get it wrong. And it seems like the same franchises consistently get it wrong. So I'm thinking of Jeff.
It's funny.
The ETS.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That was pretty obvious. But you know what? It's just I'm fascinated by it. I mean, when you think about these guys, like Peyton Manning, like you knew he was going to be a great NFL quarterback. Like he was the guy. Like I knew Andrew Luck was going to be good, but I knew Peyton Manning was just going to be one of the all-time greats. You kind of knew that about him. And just with Trevor Lawrence, I don't know. I mean, this guy could be, he could throw 20 touchdowns every year and have 18 interceptions and be a very average middle of the road guy, and have some success in the NFL. But I just, the way that the NFL is nowadays, it's so complex, and the guys are so much more athletic, and it's just, I just find that a quarterback that's going to succeed has to be a real special kind of person. You've got to just have so many of the intangibles. And I mean, I guess we'll see if these guys have it. I mean, if you look at the NFL draft, I mean, it could go Lawrence 1 to Jacksonville. It could go Wilson 2 to the Jets. It could go Mac Jones 3 to the 49ers. It could go Trey Lance 4 to Atlanta. I mean, really, 4 quarterbacks taken in the top 4 picks. We know what all these guys' shortcomings are. I mean, Wilson, we've talked about a bunch of times. I mean, he's a spoiled little rich kid. Is he really going to be able to go out there? I think he's more likely to become the next Johnny Manziel. Personally, that's what I think is gonna happen, and that makes me nervous. Mac Jones, we know that he's not the most athletic person in the world, and he played with all-world receivers. What's that going to look like if San Francisco takes him, and then you've got Trey Lance. I mean, who the hell is Trey Lance? He's played in 17 games. So he's played in 17 career college football games in Division 5, and you're anointing him like the next great quarterback, and you're going to take him as a top 5 pick. I mean, what the hell? I mean,
and you
whole
didn't
thing
name
just makes no
Justin
sense.
Fields. You didn't.
Oh
name
yeah,
Justin
I didn't even mention Justin Fields. Yeah, he's another one.
And he was, until like, I don't know, 2 months ago, he was the obvious second pick in the draft, for like the last year. So it's amazing how things change. But I've heard this said before, and as I've seen over 30 plus years of watching the NFL, I'm starting to think it's not oftentimes the player as much as does he get drafted to the right organization with the right coaching. And I really think it's not really about, did you get it right with the talent? They're all almost similarly talented at that level.
Yep.
When you watch their combines, they all do about the same thing, with the exception of like the freak athletes, like the Lamar Jacksons or those type of athletes, with the exception of those running players. Most of the quarterbacks are fleet of foot enough to avoid a hit, have cannons for arms, can make every throw. Like Sam Darnold is a freak of nature in terms of like his ability to make every throw and do a lot of great things. But he was doomed for failure because of the organization's absurd ineptness, the coaching changes, the just from top down mess, and lack of offensive linemen and all the rest of it. Well, if Zach Wilson now gets brought into the Jets with seemingly a more stable situation with GM and coach and a better offensive coordinator and more talent around him, he's already that much more ahead of Darnold in terms of being set up for success. If Mac Jones, who I don't think that much of personally in terms of his skill set and what he did at Alabama, I don't know how much that translates, but on the Niners with a great organization and a great head coach and a great system he could fit into, I could see Mac Jones succeeding on the Niners more than on other teams. And so it's you know what I mean? Like I could understand that. So, I think it's really the fit of the player, the coach, the organization, the philosophy. If it all comes together, you're going to get the most out of that quarterback. But if you're, if you're Sam Darnold in 2018 getting drafted by a mess of a situation, he wasn't good enough to overcome it. And most wouldn't have been. And I would put Patrick Mahomes in that category, by the way. Patrick Mahomes would not have overcome the Jet mess. He would have not overcome 5 bad offensive linemen, no weapons, 3 head coaches, 2 GMs, and a partridge in a pear tree. He wouldn't have overcome it. It was that bad.
Right.
So I think he would have stunk, and you'd be saying, "What's wrong with this Mahomes kid? They missed on him." Like, so.
Well, if these teams are paying the quarterbacks so much money, obviously that's the most important player on the team, and it is the most important player on the team. So, what I would always think is, when you're drafting a quarterback, and I guess that's why I'm not a head coach. Maybe I'm naive in my thinking, but shouldn't you, instead of bringing him into your system like our stupid Jet coach did, shouldn't you create the system to his strengths to get the most out of your leader on the football team, the most valuable player that's out there on the field? Isn't that what you should do? And then mold the team towards what he needs to do, because that would make the team more successful. Right? I mean, isn't that common sense?
Well, it is. I mean, I think you got to be. I think for the most part, you have 2 types of quarterbacks. Like, you have the Lamar Jacksons that you see the natural ability, but he's limited in certain areas. So you build the Ravens around exactly his skill set. Or like a Kyler Murray, who the Arizona Cardinals brought the coach in that they wanted to run the exact system he ran in college, to say, like, this is going to set him up for success because he's small, but he's super quick, super talented, whatever. I think when the Darnolds get drafted of the world, and the Josh Allens, and the all-around kind of like they can do everything and they're natural gifted throwers, you think they could fit in any system. But I think I think a lot of them can. But what did Josh Allen, let's like real quick, Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, one came from USC, ran a pro-style offense, and could make every throw, did it at a high level, had a lot of success. One did it at a much smaller school, threw for a worse completion percentage, more question marks, but a big physical gifted kid, big strong runner, also could do a lot. One got drafted 3rd, one got drafted 10th or 9th, or still very, very high. Buffalo had a little bit of a head start. They had a little bit of a better team around him, but they immediately said, we're going to build the line on the offensive defensive side. Then in year 2 and 3, we're going to add big time receivers and big time talent to him. And he got better and better, and they kept giving him more weapons, and the Jets literally couldn't get out of their own way. I don't think there's a difference between Josh Allen and Sam Darnold. I think they're very similar. One guy looks like he's on his way to stardom, and one guy now has to learn his 3rd offense in 4 years. And that's just franchises. One did it right, one did it wrong. The kids are about similar. So I think it's a good example of, like, it's not the player as much as it's the organization. I really do.
I have one more quarterback question, because I know I mentioned those top 4 and I didn't mention Fields, and that's because it seems like his stock has been falling. And when you look, he had his pro day last week, and I think he has another one coming up. He ran like a 4.40. He was making great passes. Like, his pro day was fantastic. They even said that his intelligence level was like off the charts. Like, so his ability to pick up plays and to anticipate and to read defenses is really fantastic. So you see all these things. What the hell is going on? Why does this guy keep falling? I mean, what am I missing? I mean, everything that I'm reading about this guy is that he's fantastic.
I don't think it's actually falling. I don't think his stock is actually falling. I think somebody's going to trade a boatload to move up with Atlanta at 4 if he's still there. And if the Niners really are taking Mac Jones, if that's true, which would realistically be the only system that Mac Jones would ever even warrant a consideration to be the 3rd pick in the draft. And I don't think he should be taken 3rd, honestly. And I don't even think the Niners should take him 3rd, because I know they run that offense that, it's quick passes, and it's a lot of probably some similarities to what Alabama liked to do, especially last year. Mac Jones does not deserve to be the 3rd pick in the draft. If the Niners really fell in love with Mac Jones and think he's perfect for that system, somebody's going to trade the moon and the stars with Atlanta to move to 4. And I think, or Atlanta's going to sit tight and just take him because they think like he's the heir apparent to Matt Ryan. Justin Fields is going to me. I would be shocked because he's got all world talent and he did do it at a high level at Ohio State. And he actually doesn't have anything to truly knock him for. Like if you're taking Zach Wilson number 2, there's no reason why Justin Fields isn't number 3. Like,
well, then why isn't Justin Fields number 2 though? I mean, coming into the season, everybody was Lawrence 1, Fields 2.
Well, again, now you're getting into the Jets are like the Niners East now, right? They got LaFleur from the Niners. So Salah's going to run, right? It's the Niner coaching staff moved over to the Jets, some of it.
Yeah.
You got the defensive coordinator from the Niners who brought the offensive mind from the Niners to run the Kyle Shanahan offense, right? That also LaFleur runs in Green Bay. And so this is the brother. I think they view Zach Wilson as better for that same system than they view Justin Fields. Yeah. I'm not saying that's correct, by the way. I'm just saying I think that's the thought process. Zach Wilson is better for that system. And I think the Niners, if it's true, think Mac Jones is better for that system. And I don't think either one of them may look really bad because Justin Fields might be the most talented quarterback, and that includes Trevor Lawrence. I mean, just in terms of talent.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Ohio State has a really bad track record with quarterbacks, as you know, though. I've done a few rants. Ohio State does not produce NFL quarterbacks worth of crap. So, and that's not Justin Fields' fault. I mean, he's his own guy. He has nothing to do with the past. But Ohio State's got a bad track record, particularly in the last few decades. They don't have a good one. So
horrible.
It's really bad. It's embarrassingly bad.
And maybe that's the stigma. Maybe that's what it is, seeing some of the past guys. But even so, and when you look at a team like Alabama, for example, I mean, they're always a fantastic team and they've been phenomenal for the last 20 years. I mean, their last great quarterback was Ken Stabler. And he, I think his rookie year in the NFL was like 73. So I don't think that Alabama's really
talented.
Put together.
Well, you're skipping unless you don't count Tua. He hasn't done it in the NFL, obviously.
No, you can't. I'm talking about guys
I'm not a fan of his, but no, I mean Alabama. You can jokingly say that when you face Alabama, the worst player on the field for Alabama is their quarterback. I mean, well, because they have like first round picks at every position, and the quarterback's the one thing where they're like, just don't mess it up, just kind of like. Just get the ball to the weapons. You're not the featured talent in this offense, or So
I remember when Tua was throwing those touchdown passes. I mean, these guys are open by 10 yards. I mean, my God, I could complete that pass. Well, maybe not.
Mac Jones is throwing screen passes to Devontae Smith. Notre Dame's whiffing on him in the bowl game, and he's going 80 yards, and he's zigzagging through like it's a Madden video game. I don't know how much I put on Mac Jones for that. Like, It's like
great screen, Mac. Great screen. I mean, I hear you.
Way to throw that 4-yard screen. I mean, it is what it is.
Oh God. Well, let's stick with college sports. I just want to talk a little bit about basketball. Arizona finally fired Sean Miller. I mean, how long has he been under investigation for? Like 3 years now. I was wondering if that was ever going to happen, but I'm wondering because his brother got fired last month from Indiana. I'm wondering when the last time 2 coaching brothers got fired at virtually the same time. I thought that was kind of interesting. But with all the allegations coming out of there, I mean, I don't even understand how they were able to put it off for as long as they did. I mean, it's unbelievable to think about. So we'll see what happens there. But then and I know Roy Williams retired because I think what I'm going to talk about next is something that he's just fed up with some of these rules, and that is the eligibility rule. Where no matter what year you are, you get another year. So if you're a sophomore, you get another sophomore year. If you're a senior, you get another senior year. If you're a 5th year senior, you get another 5th year. So everybody gets an additional year if they want it. Not only that, they have a new rule, and I think they just approved it, where anybody can transfer this season for next year and not lose a year of eligibility, not have to sit out, which explains why there's 1,500 people in the transfer portal right now. So I mean, listen, I understand COVID, whatever, but I mean, really, I mean, to me, it's like, was there a
Well,
lost season this year? No. I'm trying to figure out what the
well,
reasoning is behind all this.
I think I think the more prominent or pressing issue that's coming out of all of this is the now you can transfer without sitting out, no matter what now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, which
Is that
not
going to be
COVID. It's not.
permanent, or is that just?
Yes, it's permanent.
That's
It's permanent.
permanent? Oh my God.
So now
I mean,
you've just created the
geez, it's terrible.
ultimate free agency. Like you've created,
Yeah.
especially in college football. Now it's like, let's face it, Alabama goes, what's the one thing we could use next year? We graduated all our safeties. Okay, let's go get the best college safety. Where's he at? Oh, he's at Georgia. Great, our neighboring rival school. Let's go get him for 1 year, or let's go pluck him away from wherever. I get the argument that when the head coach leaves, sometimes players go to a school because of the coaches.
Yeah.
And a guy leaves, they get to leave the school high and dry, and the kid has to stay, or if he leaves, he's got to sit out a year. Like, I get that extreme example that I understand that argument. But the thing about it is, and I never hear people articulate this, the coach goes and leaves, and he might leave the school high and dry a bit, but he does not cause a vicious, massive domino effect in the whole sport. If you allow open free agency where these kids don't have to sit out a year, you've now created this pipeline of the portal that I've never heard the term the portal now, but everybody throws their name in the portal, and the transfer portal is now it's a buffet line for teams to just go in and say, I need a running back this year. I need a this. And God knows what they're doing to get these kids to transfer there, because they could go anywhere. And it's going to be one of those things. It's a smaller step right now towards a really big disaster we're headed for. Between that and you got to pay the players and all this other stuff, we might as well not call it college sports anymore. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to think about. I mean, are we gonna see 4-year players that literally play for 4 different teams? I mean, are you going to have guys that are just going from team to team to team for whatever reason? Well, I mean, it's like all it is it's college free agency, And if you're a coach, what? I mean, I'm thinking like if you're Roy Williams, I mean, I'd want to quit too. I mean, so what do you have to do? You have to teach. You have to treat the kids a certain way. Like you can't Bobby Knight them, where you're screaming at them and headbutting them or whatever. You've got to put on the kid gloves. If they're not happy with their situation, they're just going to leave. And you know what? What happens if a team has a bad year and their entire team leaves? What's keeping guys from staying there? There's nothing.
Well, it also it puts this like emphasis, or it allows kids to not fight through any adversity. Like if you're a big time recruit and you're not getting the playing time because you're stinking in practice and you're not doing what you want, now you go, I'll just leave. I'll just go somewhere else and I'll play immediately. Yeah. Like you don't fight through anything. And how many of those kids did fight through a tough freshman year to become that much better in the future? And they worked through something.
You're absolutely right.
And now you're not gonna get any of that. You're gonna get the quarterback who, if he doesn't start as a freshman, is going to transfer halfway through the first year and say, okay, I got beat out by 2 better quarterbacks. I'm done. I'm not staying. Right away, I'm out. Is that good? I mean,
that's right.
Not to me. I don't think that's going to be great. So we'll see.
I mean, but contrary, I mean, Justin Fields, I mean, he might, I mean, remember, he didn't play at Georgia. So he transferred to Ohio State, and it looks like it's going to work out well for him. So, but but when it becomes the norm, that's when it becomes a real problem. And so these decisions that they're making, I'm trying to figure out why, because I don't see this making sense to anybody at all, I guess, except for the athlete, that now the athlete is in control of everything. When you think about it, I mean, they've got complete control. These stars are literally going to be able to do whatever they want. And if you can't keep them happy, they're just going to leave and go someplace else that's going to keep them happy. I mean, I just think I don't every time I think this world is getting crazier and crazier, it's like stuff like this comes up, and it's like, all right, was that really a big problem? Is that something that you needed to do? I don't remember college athletes at the picket line. We want to transfer without sitting out as many times. I don't remember that ever being a conversation. So, man, I don't know. It's unbelievable to think of. But I got a couple things, and just a couple things. We're gonna just wrap this conversation up. We've had a lot of good information here, but A-Rod, on one hand, it looks like he and J-Lo are going to be over, but on the other hand, it looks like he's going to be the co-owner of the Timberwolves. So good for him, another athlete. Maybe a baseball guy. I don't remember anybody that's been a successful athlete buying a big team in another sport. So this could be something interesting, right? I mean, I don't know.
I want to see A-Rod spend his winters in Minnesota watching the Timberwolves.
I know,
he's gonna be like, guys, I got you on the Zoom call. I'll be in sunny South Beach.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to come here. It's too cold. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I just talked to somebody in Minnesota today, and he said 3 days ago they got 4 inches of snow. So I thought that was interesting. Nice. Kevin James, you know who Kevin James is?
Of course.
Comedian.
King of Queens.
All right. With
King
you, I don't know, and I love King of Queens. Yeah. Anyway, tell me what you think about this. He is actually set to star in a movie called Home Team. It is the story of, I mean, this sounds really exciting to me. It's the story of Sean Payton. Remember when he was suspended for a year because of the bounty scandal, Bounty Gate or whatever it is, not the quicker picker upper, when he was offering players to hurt other people. So when he was out of the game for a year, he was actually coaching his 6th grade son's football team, and they're going to make a movie about that.
I would watch it.
I mean, if you're Sean Payton, are you saying, okay, well, Kevin James doesn't really look like, our body types are slightly different. I don't know, but I mean, I like Kevin James, and I think it could be an interesting movie. But I mean, to make a movie out of, I mean, I don't know, man. It's just it's weird to me, disgraced football coach has to go coach his 6th grade son's team,
I hear you. I'd be kind of interested because I like Kevin James. I think that could be good.
No, I do too. And I'm sure it's gonna be a good movie, because that every movie that gets made is a good movie. I mean, it's just the way that it is. So, but we'll see. I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know. I'm torn about that. I'm sure it's going to be a good movie, but the whole, you get a movie out of being suspended and then coaching your son's team. I don't know, man. I don't know. Congratulations to your boy. You don't know who that is? Who's that? Who am I imitating? Come on.
Macaulay Culkin?
Macaulay Culkin, who recently became a father for the first time.
Oh,
so
boy.
Congratulations.
Sorry for that kid.
Yeah.
Sorry for that. For that newborn.
He's a strange dude, but hey, congratulations anyway. I know he's a big fan of the show. So Macaulay, thanks for tuning in, and
shout out,
congratulations
MC.
on your first kid. I think his kid's name might be.
No, I mean, there's only one name. If it's a boy, it should be Kevin.
I know, that would be fine. I want to say he had a girl, so it could be Kavina. Yeah. I mean, that would be pretty cool. It would be cool if he had a son and named him Kevin. That would really be awesome. But last thing I wanted to talk about. Remember how we talked about the sports card market is just gotten out of control.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the old stuff, it's the new stuff. You got these rookies that nobody's ever heard of. Oh, I'm going to sell this thing. Oh my God, it's worth $500. Okay, great. How many games has this guy played? He's never played above AA. Well, great. No wonder it's worth so much money. But a Tom Brady signed rookie autographed card in perfect condition sold for $2.25 million.
Double thumbs up.
What? WTF. That's all that I'm saying, man. That's all that I'm saying. I collect autographs. Man, mine don't come anywhere near 2.25 million. But anyway, maybe it's because I collect all older cards. Maybe that's the problem. So anyway, my friend, that is it, man. I got nothing else. You got anything else?
No, I mean, good stuff. I think we did a little potpourri. I think it was fun.
Yeah.
I think we got NFL draft coming up soon, so that'll be fun to talk about. By
That
then,
will be.
we'll be almost a month into the baseball season. In Met terms, 10 games, but mostly everybody will be about 30. And we'll probably sprinkle in a little NBA because we're getting close to playoffs and we're getting towards the end of the year. So, but I'm excited for the NFL draft because, hey, as Jet fans, we got 2 first-round picks, and we got that same thing that you have when the Major League Baseball season starts. The draft is hope and optimism. Mostly,
always.
Just sitting beneath that is utter fear and devastation of what they're going to do wrong. So we'll see how it goes. But
it's funny. It's funny because it's like my mom said. Your 2 most optimistic days are right before the season starts, and then right after it ends. Because if you have a bad season, it's what, we're going to be better next year. You're optimistic right away. And even us Jets fans, I mean, we thought we were going to be better last year, and we were 10 times worse.
I kind of thought they'd stink last year. But listen,
well, I mean, I knew they would stink, but I mean, come on.
We'll
I didn't think they could go down from where they were. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm torn, but we'll see. We'll see. So be well, my man. Be well. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies, blast it on social media. If you've got your own podcast, talk about Phil the Mic. If you know professional athletes, talk about Phil the Mic to them. Whatever you need to do, let's get it out there. Let's have fun. I think that everybody is going to be enjoying this episode. I thought this was a great episode. A lot of good banter going back and forth because we are just, I mean, I'm the man in this podcast, but Phil's pretty good too. And you're coming along ever since your emergency fake appendectomy. So take care, everybody. Have a great day. Phil, have yourself a great weekend, my friend.
See you guys.